Hello, and welcome to the eTech podcast with me, your host, Ryan Maughan. I have been involved in the development of electrified vehicles and machines since 2005 as an engineer and a business leader. This podcast is the product of my passion for electric and autonomous vehicle technology. I'm here to share knowledge from some of the world's leading experts, as well as my own insights. Join me as we accelerate the transition to cleaner, safer and smarter vehicles and grow the industry around the world. For today's show, we've got something really exciting. A company that's been making some headlines and some huge waves in the electrification space has agreed to come on and tell us more about what they've been doing. We have Matt Windle, who is the Executive Director of Engineering from Lotus, to talk to us about what they're doing in the field of electrification. So welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you very much.
If we could get started, Matt, just by talking about yourself, how you got into doing what you do now and what kind of led you to the current place that you're at.
Okay, so I've been in the automotive industry for over 30 years now. I actually started out as a coach builder. So I was working for a company called Dormobile down in Kent that older listeners will probably remember, but the younger ones definitely won't. And my background was technical drawing. So again, it makes me sound really old, but I used to do manual drafting on drawing boards. And then from there, I moved on to computer-aided design. And then from there, I've moved into engineering positions, senior engineering positions, and then up to where I am now, which is an executive position at Lotus.
Wow! And what got you into engineering in the first place? What was the attraction?
I think all of us are interested in how stuff works. Engineering is really underplayed, I think, as a discipline. You know, people just don't appreciate how much engineering goes into everything that they touch in their daily lives. Cars is a passion. Sports cars is a passion, particularly. I've had the good fortune of the last couple of days doing quite a bit of driving of testing mules on the track at Lotus. So sun's shining.
Wow.
You get given an empty track to try out cars that you've been engineering. That's where the highlight comes in. But obviously, just the challenge of it as well. You know, every single day is different.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And now, so your role at Lotus is Executive Director of Engineering. What does that mean? What is it you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so I'm a member of the executive team at Lotus that working with our CEO, Phil Popham. We are driving the strategic vision for the company. So we have a strategic plan laid out, which we call Vision 80. We were in 2018, we were 70 years old, so we've got this plan for 10 years. And it was really important that we set our targets far enough in the future so that you don't get just wrapped up in the day-to-day, and you're always looking on the longer term for the strategic view. With what's happened with COVID-19, that's obviously put a lot of pressure on that. Yeah. And we have to be flexible and adapt our plans as we go along, protecting the business, but primarily for us has been the welfare of the staff, looking after the staff. So some strategic plans have taken a bit of a back seat to accommodate that, but ultimately that vision is there. So in my role, I'm looking after all the product engineering, existing and new projects that's coming through. So we anything that needs doing on the vehicles that are in production now, and like we've just announced the lease editions. We do that work for production, but our primary driver is the programs we've got running on new products that are coming through. And then also I run the consultancy side of our business as well. So we work with external clients, mainly on a confidential basis, delivering for them technical solutions for problems they've got. It's good with it being combined with engineering because the consultancy side gets the full experience of the engineering team, However, we also keep the consultancy side confidential from the engineering team. So if they don't need to know about it, they don't. So it's an interesting balance, and I've found that's really added to the enjoyment of my job as well, because now I have the commercial side, all the deliveries for revenue and P&L and all those things. So I'm still learning every day, which is good.
Wow. And Lotus, I mean, it's been on a real journey the last, I guess forever, but in particular the last few years with a new owner and huge investment in the business. So you're on a kind of growth trajectory, and the Vision 80 is a really ambitious plan for the future of Lotus. So what has that meant in terms of your role and what you're trying to do?
It's meant a lot, actually. It's the investments there. I think historically for Lotus, definitely over the last 10, but probably 20 years, have struggled with investment. We have the backing of both Geely and our other shareholder, eTech Automotive. Funds are in place. We obviously are still trying to be as efficient with these programs as we can to get the shareholders a return as soon as we can. But we have a product plan. We have a technology roadmap, and the ability to do R&D, and all of that is backed up by the shareholders. They buy into a plan. Mr. Fong, who's our group CEO, who's works at Geely, I have a meeting with him every month. We do 3 hours every month, and I take him through all the programs, all the plans we've got, all the ideas we've got, and so it gives us really good access to Geely as well, and they're advanced in a lot of areas, automation and autonomous driving, connectivity, all of those things. They're at a high level, so I can go over there and learn. I've been over there and been in their cars, and it just opens your mind to what's out there and where we need to get to as a business. I think also with Geely, as been the example with Volvo, is they're not they don't dictate to you what they want. They listen to your ideas, they challenge you, they encourage you, and then they back you. And then so there is an element of we've actually got to deliver on what we say we're going to deliver on.
Yeah.
But they just help keeping you on the right path, nudging here and there as you need it. And their idea is to keep the brands individual and make them successful with their backing. And quite frankly, as far as Lotus is concerned, this is a position we've never really been in, but definitely not in the time I've been here. And the pressure is hard. The requirement to deliver, particularly around quality and cost, is high. But that's what you'd want, So Lotus has got to make a huge step change from where we were to where we're going, and hopefully you'll see that come through in the products in the next few years.
And can you tell us a bit about that product roadmap? What does it sort of roughly look like without giving too many secrets away?
So the answer to that is no. We have said that there will be a new sports car coming out, and that's going to be an ICE engine. Yeah. So I can tell you that's not too far away. So we're working on that. The problem we had was we basically started from nowhere. When Geely came in, there was not a set of projects that were there just waiting to be productionized, and the landscape changes all the time as well. But we talked about it before we started recording this, that obviously there was the article that Phil did last week, Phil Popham, that talked about our future as far as electrification is concerned, and we see that as a real positive, and it gives us the ability to be flexible around what we're doing as well. So we have a few threads going. We're looking to go back into motorsport as well. So we're working on a GT4 project, which is based on the Avaya. So that's a tentative kind of toe in the water as far as getting back into motorsport as well. So that's one of the other programs I've got running. Oh, fantastic! So plenty to keep you busy. Yeah. Yeah. And in case anyone missed it, the article that Matt just mentioned there. So this was Phil, the CEO of Lotus, talking about their electric future. So
that whilst the next car was going to be an ICE engine vehicle coming to the market, I think there was enough kind of wiggle room that all of the future cars don't necessarily have to be full battery electric, but certainly the headlines read, all of our future cars are going to be battery electric. But I think he actually said something like sort of mainly electric, or
I think the wording was electrification will play a big part in our future.
Yeah.
So as you say, there's room for manoeuvre.
Yeah.
But it's you look at the legislation that's coming through. The pressure will be on emissions quite strongly as well as we go forward. I think that's another element that's been seen out of the COVID-19 crisis is actually if you kind of take away a lot of the industries and the transportation that's out there, that how quickly the environment can look a bit better as well. So when we get out of this crisis moment, I truly believe the pressure will really be on low emission vehicles and zero emission vehicles.
Yeah, and the people have realised the kind of public health, there's very strong links now with the sort of COVID mortality rates and air quality. And so if there was already a massive focus on it pre-COVID. So I think there's just an increased focus likely to be coming. So which is good news for all of us involved in the space and kind of validates what we've been banging on for a while. So the big project that really was like this sort of massive statement, and it came kind of out of the blue. I think there was a lot of people that weren't expecting it, was the Avaya. And that landed and just sort of blew everyone away. So could you tell us a bit more about the Avaya and what the motivation behind that was and where that project came from?
So yes, I can. We're very proud of the car, and it's nice to hear that it blew everybody away. It's what we needed a halo product. We have a lot of brand recognition, but I don't think a lot of people know that Lotus, in some cases, don't even know that Lotus still exists. I mean, whenever you talk to them about Lotus, they reference back to Chapman and they reference back to the Formula One days, which was a fantastic part of our history. And you can not that this works on a podcast, but you can probably see behind me, there's a picture of the historical F1 cars in my office. So, we are driven by that history and it keeps us as a guiding light. But we needed to do something that showed we could bring new technology. We needed a halo product that gave us the brand exposure that we were looking for. And we also wanted to, I mentioned about this kind of cap on ambitions as far as finances are being concerned. So there's been loads of ideas bubbling around, loads of opportunities. And we very quickly, we wanted a halo product, and what better way to do it than to go hypercar.
Yeah.
We set ourselves what we thought we would like as performance targets, but the most important thing that we wanted was to make it, we've got this, our driving strapline, if you like, is for the driver. So everything we do, we're trying to think of what would a driver want from this car. So ergonomics and then the aesthetics of it as well quickly drove a decision that we would go electric with the vehicle. We got into this discussion about how we could take our aerodynamics further. We're known for aerodynamics and lightweighting, so we were looking, and and this is where we got into this discussion around porosity. Is if you start actually getting the air going through the car, rather than the car trying to punch a hole through it, what does it do? And then it just got into this kind of crazy thing that we were on about. Let's look at rock formations and how they're weathered through water and what it looks like and the flow and things. And as I say, there was just this huge amount of energy and enthusiasm that had been held back. And then once we got this opportunity, so that's where we got to. And then off the back of that is just the performance figures that you can get from that powertrain as well. Kind of, is putting you up there as class leading with performance. And so that's where it started. It started as we wanted a halo brand product, and then very quickly got into us getting very excited about what it is. And for for us, every day to be working on the hypercar is the pinnacle of our careers, I think, probably as well.
Yeah. So I mean, I was going to ask, and you answered it there, but just to sort of dig on that a little bit more. So I was going to say, why electric?
Yeah.
And you touched on a couple of points there, but it is really interesting that, as a company, you set out on this mission to make this massive halo product, a hypercar, and you ended up going down the electrification path. So what in particular was it about the driving attributes and the aero that kind of pushed it into electric?
So one of the main things is packaging. So the area at the back where we've got the Venturi tunnels, which are the holes that are going right through the car, is we haven't got a massive V12 or something sat there. Heat management as well. So you get less heat management that you need to deal with on this type of car. And so that drove us down the electric route. But also, as I said, with our Vision 80 plan, electrification is included in that strategy going forward. And I think one of the debates we had for a long time when we were sitting down thinking about the product plan is, if you're writing a new product plan from scratch, as we were 2-3 years ago, how could you not justify having electrification in there with the way things are going with legislation in the environment as well? So it was a mix of things that got us to that decision, but it was the technology demonstration, the attributes, the packaging. We've managed to do it so it feels like a Lotus as well. So we've put the battery pack in a mid-engined chest configuration. So you've still got that driving dynamics of the car is as you would expect with where the engine would be on a Lotus. So it's the same dynamics as well. So we're still striving to achieve the feel of a Lotus when you're driving that car as well.
Okay, so interesting. So you didn't go the sort of typical route with the skateboard with the battery under the seats. So it's
no, because it didn't give us the package we wanted as well. Yeah. And what we really, for us, a Lotus is you feel like you're wearing the car, and if you sit in the Avaya, that is what you do feel like. You're low in the chassis, you're wearing the car. You can see the front corners of the car for positioning it as you drive. So the package advantages that gave us for the ergonomics were exactly what we're looking for as well. So it's really difficult. You can't pin one decision that made the decision that we went electric with it. However, it's a combination of decisions. As you go through, you set out at the start what you want your attributes, what you want the car to achieve.
Yeah.
And then you have to offset that against, obviously, range and performance and cost. And there's a weight penalty with electric as well. But we were, okay, if we're going to do an electric vehicle, let's make it the lightest that's out there. And that's the challenge we set ourselves as well.
Wow, yeah, because it is really the things that Lotus are famous for. There's that driving experience where you always, your bum is about 2 inches off the ground, and it's about the closest thing you can get to driving a go-kart and be legal on the roads. But that lightweight, this forward visibility is always like a really strong feature in Lotus. But lightweight in particular is something that people often struggle with electric platforms. So what kind of approaches did you take to really tackle that challenge?
There's a couple of things we do. I think one of the main things that I always challenge, and we challenge ourselves as an engineering team, is just is to be efficient with the parts as well. So we will always look, if we can, is to make one part do two jobs rather than two parts doing two jobs. And a prime example of that is the dash rail that's in the interior. Not only is that structural as a cross-car beam, it's also structural that it supports the steering column, but we duct the air through it as well. So all of our HVAC air is ducted through a structural member that's in the front of the car. So that's one area. We've also integrated the longitudinal element of the front crash structure into the chassis. So it's a one-piece monocoque carbon chassis that's got integrated longitudinals front and rear. Again, saves on a joint, saves on the flange weights that you have to put in there, and then we just have a crushable zone at the front that we add on. So it's those types of things that we're always looking for, just to challenge ourselves. We took wing mirrors off, so we've got rear view mirrors on there.
Yeah.
Cameras even. Yeah. Again, just which is just improving the aerodynamics, reducing the weight content of the vehicle as well. So they all add up. There is, as I say, there is a penalty with a battery pack, but whatever vehicles we work on, be them conventional or electric, we will always try and make the car feel that give it that Lotus agility through its ride and handling.
And of course, from a powertrain point of view, it's ended up as a four-wheel, all-wheel drive vehicle. Yep. So you've got a twin motor setup in there. You got four motors. So there's twin motors on each axle.
Wow. And with the gearbox in there as well. So you have four motors. So we've got the ability for torque vectoring on there as well, for driving stability. And then in our range mode, we go down to one axle, so it's just two motors in range mode to increase your range.
Do you clutch out the motors that aren't being used then, or do they just are they just depowered, deactivated?
Yeah, you just turn one axle off and then just go to rear.
And if I'm right in thinking, that's the first all-wheel drive Lotus that's been made. It's not ever, because I think there was four-wheel drive in the past, but it must be the first in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, it's true. We are known for rear-wheel drive. Yeah.
And did that have? I mean, that must have brought some challenges in itself. In terms of the design of the front suspension, so you can put torque through it, and having that sort of drive module up at the front.
Yeah, we went for an inboard damper design. So we mentioned the F1 heritage earlier, and so. But the inboard damper design is driven by the ergonomics as well. By the aesthetics, particularly on the rear. We couldn't have an upright strut that was sticking through a hole that we had for the Venturi tunnel. So, so we've got Formula One technology in the suspension. It's, as I say, what we're looking to do is just deliver that Lotus driving experience through the agility of the platform.
Wow. And the Avaya is in production pretty soon, isn't it? So we be shipping them to customers in the not too distant future.
So we're still in the testing phase. Unfortunately, we're physical testing, so we got hit by COVID pretty hard, because we were testing out in Italy and Germany, and we're still seeing the impacts of that now. So we're trying to minimise the impacts, but the car's got to be right before it goes out there as well. So. We're heading towards production. Production facility's done, so that's sat there, looking all shiny and ready for some products to go in there. So the pressure's on engineering to get the vehicle validated and signed off.
Yeah, because the response from the market was tremendous to the launch of the vehicle, and you've got some really strong pre-sales going, some pent-up demand in the market, customers.
Yeah, I mean. You mentioned it before. It is really the technology is really challenging. There's a lot of software controls in there to manage the four-wheel drive and the motors and things. We've also, for us as well, we've put new driver interface in the vehicle as well. So the HMI setup is there's a single driver screen with what we call a ski slope. So it's the central console that's got haptic touch buttons on it as well. So the idea is, however you're driving the car, you can just go, you will learn where the buttons are, so you're not looking down, so you're keeping your eyes on the road as well. Right. So development of that software, making sure it's right, bug-free before it goes to market is really important for us. So,
and that's an interesting point there, because we've seen it in other manufacturers, and particularly like Volkswagen have made the news quite a bit recently about software issues they've been having. But in general, in the industry, we've shifted from, car making of the past was traditionally a mechanical job. So sort of mechanical engineers and engines and sort of thermo stuff. It was all about the mechanical side and making that all work well. And it's really shifted, not just because of electrification, but in parts, it's an electronics and software job now. Has that changed the way that you've had to work and run projects like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a body engineer by trade, so we do the body panels and doors and things, and now that's kind of old hat mechanical engineering as it was with the chassis, like you say. Even though even on the chassis, we're looking at advanced systems all linked to how we drive. But you are right, the functional safety is really important. Software connectivity, onboard, offboard updates, and all of those things are going on. And to be honest, as the guy who holds the budget for engineering, the guys come along sometimes and say, "Yeah, we need to spend this money to get here," and you're just like, "How could you spend that much money?" But I can see where they're coming from, and it's very different from your traditional vehicle programs as well, because they run on very quick software updates and versions of software, so they can turn around stuff very quickly. Whereas, if you see a failure on a suspension system or something, you've got to go away, design it, validate it, test it, validate it before you even get it back on a vehicle. Whereas with software, you could find an issue overnight and they put a new version in the morning, sort of thing. So it's very dynamic, but it's the way it's going. It's kids today, and the future owners of these vehicles in the next 20 years, that's what they're used to now. Yeah. It is a quick software update, updates overnight, and using it as part of. Also, vehicles are now becoming much more connected in your life as well. So that connectivity between the home, the person, the vehicle, it's an interesting world, and where it will go with future transformation or transportation, but transformation around accommodations. And we know that there's sites that have been built in North London that have got no parking spaces. So developers are building spaces now that they say there's public transport nearby, you don't need a car, but those are still high value customers that we want to get in sports cars. So how do you get those sports cars to them? So there's a massive mix of variables that are going through the industry at the moment.
Yeah. And so you mentioned overnight updates. Is the new vehicles are going to have over the air? Is that something that you're
connectivity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a huge trend in the industry moving towards that. So you won't have to go back to a dealer for a software update. The car will just be updated.
Yeah, in the right environment for what those updates are. I mean, it depends what the problem is, doesn't it? If we need to get them back to a dealer, but yes, we will have the ability for over-the-air updates.
Yeah. Okay. And I noticed on your CV. For some reason, talking about over-the-air updates makes me think of Tesla, because they kind of pioneered that. I do remember when they first came out with that, talking to one of our customers about, basically trying to convince them of the benefits of over-the-air updates and going with that kind of system. And they poo-pooed it, basically. It wasn't something they were interested in at all. But the industry is now moving in that direction. But you had some personal experience of working at Tesla a few years ago. Has that did that rub off on you in terms of?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in very early. The company was formed in 2003. I joined in 2005, and at the time, as it's known now, Lotus were helping Tesla design the first Roadster around the Elise chassis, and I did the long relocation of going across the corridor from working for Lotus to working for Tesla. So it was a great move. I loved my time there. Very, very, very small group at the time. I think, what are they now? 48,000 employees or something.
Huge,
That's probably 80 when I joined.
Most valuable car company on the planet.
The shares are going mad, aren't they? Yeah. But they keep delivering now, and you can see why. I mean, I was lucky enough to meet Elon quite a few times very early on. His drive, his intelligence, and his just brain capacity were second to none as anybody I'd met. And he knew where he wanted to go, and he was going to get there. And I think that's really important. I think, I've been asked a few times what I learned from him, and I think one of the most important lesson is it's okay to make a decision. Sometimes not making decisions is worse than making a decision. So you that's easy to say, but you gain experience as you go through your career. You learn from mistakes and you learn from things that have been done. And I don't track it, but I don't know how many decisions I make a day now. But you just have to just be able to flick from one subject to the other and be on top of what's going on. But yeah, it was a fantastic time. Very, 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 very enthusiastic. Very, very free flowing. Ideas were accepted, and we just challenged each other all the time. The car performed well. It's compared to where they are now, I think the Roadster gets forgotten a little bit in the history of Tesla. But it was a very, very it was a technology demonstrator for them that's got them to where they are now.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the history, and even the Roadster gets, the people who do remember it. I think a lot of people forget that it was based on a Lotus product and had a huge design input from the UK team who basically led on the project, and that's sort of like recently there's been talk of Tesla having some facilities back in the UK again, and people are like, why would they do that? Well, that's the origin of the company. It basically started properly here. I know there was a business that existed before, but they really got their teeth stuck into it in the UK.
Yeah, and all of those 2,500 cars were built here as well at Hethel. So we used to do two versions. One was the full build, and the other one we called a glider, which was quite funny to see as it went out the factory, because it was like an off-road buggy, because it didn't have the battery pack or the drivetrain in, so there was no point shipping that from America to here and then shipping a complete car back. So anything that went to North America went as a glider, but all of those cars were produced at Hethel as well, so by the Lotus team and the manufacturing team. That's
a huge part of the history, and I mean, I guess probably because of that, Lotus effectively went a bit quiet on electrification for a while. I imagine they were sort of tied up in agreements and confidentialities and stuff like that. But it's great to see Lotus coming back so strongly into the space. And back to the Avaya question. Sorry for that little wander off into your personal history. What do you think is going to come from the Avaya into the mainstream product? So what are the kind of lessons you're learning from that are going to filter back into the, I was going to say more normal cars, but I mean, the cars you guys make are all, super sports cars. They're not, you don't kind of make anything that's a normal car. So I'm going to use that. What's going to come back into your regular production? That's a better way of putting it. Normal is not a good word to use for your vehicles.
I think one of the main aspects, which is not technical, is that it will drive the DNA for the family. So the sports car that's behind Avaya, you will see themes that come out of the Avaya styling that are in that car. So the porosity, the lightweight look of the vehicle is going to carry across, and that will come across on all the family resemblance. So that is setting a bit of a new design DNA way for us, if you like. But also the technology that's in there, the learning we're doing from Avaya, they're very different. They're very different kind of user cases. So the Avaya, we're building 130 of them. They won't be high mileage vehicles. They're not. They're unlikely to be used as a daily driver, whereas vehicles that come through afterwards will be. So there's elements of it we can learn from, but also it's just the transformation at Lotus as well. So readiness for electric vehicles, health and safety, workshops, charging facilities. So we've had to put in new charging facilities this year on site. So it's the infrastructure around it as well. It's the preparation. It's a good vehicle to give us preparation for where we go forward, and it will be the same in the dealers and things like that. So
wow. And the batteries on the Avaya must be pretty special. With it's a huge. How much power is the Avaya powertrain? It's like over 1 megawatt, isn't it?
Yeah.
So significant 1.5 megawatts or something like that. It's huge massive power. So very high power battery. And previous podcast guests, we've talked a lot about the trade-offs between energy batteries and power batteries. And that is a use case that I think some people don't realize in these sort of hypercars, very high performance battery electric vehicles. You end up having to use power cells that are more like you'd use in a hybrid conventional vehicle because of the sort of ratio of tractive power to battery capacity. But in the more mainstream product, I guess you'll be moving to a more of a focus on energy capacity in the cars.
Yeah, it's a trade-off. I mean, as you said, we do sports cars, so we're always going to want that performance as well. But it's what's the level of usability for people, and as you say, you're always one customer will want 300 miles, whereas one customer might want to go 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds. So it's finding that balancing act and the best performance you can get. Cells that it protect you from the D rates, but then there's the design elements to it as well. If you can keep them firmly stable, obviously that has a massive impact on the performance of the cells and the packs as well. Yeah. So we've got a lot of experience that's come into the company over the last year. I've been working with major OEMs on electrification programs. We've been building up our propulsion team with electrification in mind, and the guys are starting to pull together a lot of good plans. So it's very exciting.
Oh, great! And do you get much help from a supply chain point of view with from Geely? Because oftentimes they get, again, something I've talked about recently with guests on the podcast is that if you go back, I mean, even 5 years ago, battery cell manufacturers were really keen to seed production and we're keen to take on new programs. But now, because of the way the industry's gone, actually cell supply can be quite challenging, and getting cell suppliers to engage with more kind of niche vehicles is difficult. Do you get support from Geely in that respect?
Yeah, we do, and we're also, we can link in our future cycle plan as well. So I'll come back to the Vision 80. We've got future plans that are in there that will always be increasing the volume, so you can use that as well. But Geely help us. They help us where we need it, and we have seen the benefits as well as you'll see with the sports car that's come through. One of the things we really wanted to do was a jump in quality, and to really step up with durability and everyday standards of the cars. And the suppliers we've gone to are giving us those abilities, and they having Geely behind us obviously helps get us in the door. So yes is the short answer.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I can see that being a really important strategic advantage. In the sports car space, there's a lot of the smaller OEMs who are going to struggle in terms of getting the attention of the battery cell suppliers now. And I think, like, your plans to move to a more electric future, if you're not electrifying now, it's going to get really difficult in the future for some of these OEMs who can't leverage on those on that kind of supply chain. So I think where some people thought, if we move away from engines, we always had to have a big brother engine supplier in the past. Maybe an electrified future is better, but it's sort of similar challenges, but with different components now in the future.
I think the supply chain as well know that the way the market's going is going towards electrification or part electrification. So there will be a move from traditional combustion engines towards electric propulsion, and the supply chain will have to adapt to that as well. So it's always it tends to be a customer driven activity, and Tesla have been fantastic with bringing the idea of EVs to the mass market, and that keeps growing through other companies. We can see our competitors are going that route, and the supply chain will get in place, because that's the right thing for them, because they've got to be having their strategic views going forward as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of suppliers at the minute who are in a sort of almost like a crisis of what do they do. They've got to protect their existing business, but then, if you make, I don't know, pistons or gearbox synchronizers or something, your future is going to be quite difficult unless you adapt your business model quite significantly. So there's a lot of kind of soul searching going on in the supply chain at the moment in terms of how they adapt their businesses into the new electrified future. So
yeah, and it's millions and years of investment as well. It's a big decision to make. That's the way we see it, that's the way the market's going.
Although hopefully, some clarity, because I do think one of the challenges at the moment is still, not every manufacturer is committed to electrification. You do still get quite a lot of mixed messages. And, I've been in meetings recently, the last sort of 3 months with some suppliers where they're still quite skeptical of electrification and in terms of the market penetration that will get to over the next sort of 5 or 10 years. So they're really holding back because they essentially don't think electrification is going to take off in the way that I think some of us, and me particularly, and I think probably you as well, think that it will. So getting more clarity from OEMs on the market direction, getting more clarity from governments as well in terms of the sort of regulatory requirements is helpful. So, Lotus's position now is really helpful in terms of driving the supply chain. It's a matter of kind of saying, look, guys, this is serious. You need to, you've either got to come along or you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, I think I was going to say there's something that you've just touched on with the government as well, is what we really need is investment in the infrastructure. So investment in the supply chain, investment in road designs, investment in charge stations, those types of things as well, because that will be a limit to people using it as well. If you've got to spend an hour waiting to get to a charge station, it's just going to put you off buying these types of products, isn't it? So the infrastructure transformation that's needed and forward thinking, but I think again it's going to be driven by legislation. So it's the way we'll have to go.
It's a good time for a market when there is it's the sort of two-pronged attack of a market pull and a regulatory push. It's like the sort of perfect storm in terms of pulling those things together. So it really is. It's great to see what you guys are doing. So just one final question, because I know you've got to get on. It's one final question for you. What are you most excited about that's coming for you guys over the next year or so?
Well, there's so much change going on. I think the cultural shift and the team effort that we're doing here has really shone through over the COVID period. I mean, we got involved in a little program to design a valve for the NHS that brought us all together and things. So that's starting. I think seeing the ongoing work with that, and then just seeing the faces of the Lotus employees when they see their new sports car. I mean, we showed them Avaya, and they will see the car before anybody else when it's ready to show. And I think the perseverance and the flexibility and agility of these guys deserve to be rewarded by seeing great products going out of their factory. So we're in the middle of a £100 million investment on the site here at Hethel. So we've got a new production facility for Avaya. We're building a new production facility for the new sports car. We're putting in a new restaurant. We're putting in a museum. So this place is going to transform. And it also is with our satellite sites as well. We're working in different areas where we've got sites everywhere just to try and pull this together. So I think we call ourselves Ocelot. So it's a play on Lotus, and it is true. As a team, we're going together, and I think that's what I'm most excited about. Really, is just being able to bring these products to people and showing the world what we can do as well. But internally, first is the staff is really important.
Oh, brilliant! That's so people often talk about, your people are your biggest asset, but I just see it all the time where people say that, but they don't act on it. It doesn't come through in their actions. But it's fantastic to hear you say that, and I know from having seen what you're doing, you guys really do take that seriously. So that's brilliant. What a wonderful asset for Lotus, great future, and a fantastic asset for the UK. So it's been brilliant to talk to you, Matt. Thank you so much for taking the time out today to have this conversation.
No worries, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Ryan.
That's all we've got time for today. I really hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. It was fantastic to speak to Matt, learn more about his past and about what they're doing at Lotus, especially at the moment, the huge news from them on their more electrified future. I'll put some links in the show notes to the press releases about what they're doing in electrification, so you can go and read up some more about that. Also link to Matt and to the other Lotus information. So check out the show notes down below, and you'll be able to find out more about what we've been talking about. Don't forget to subscribe. I know some people are listening who haven't yet subscribed, so don't forget to hit subscribe. Leave us a comment, a rating, hit like, depending on whichever platform you're listening to us on. It really helps. It helps the algorithms push the show out in front of more people who might be interested in it, and that helps us. The listening figures have gone up really strongly during the lockdown period. More people listening to the show for their electrification, powertrain technology news and information. So that's wonderful. And if you've got any questions or things you'd like answering, you can email those in as well. And you never know, we might turn that into a whole episode just for you. So thank you very much for taking the time out to listen to us today. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.